You are listening to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on all of the statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Booger and Tanura.
What is up, and welcome to episode 135 of Overwatch League Network. Back live after a break last week, just due to some crazy scheduling issues, and it's pretty much my fault. I was like, yeah, we'll record Tuesday instead, and then forgot that my new job, I work Tuesdays. So here we are, ready to go this week. 2 weeks of Overwatch to talk about, and next week to go. And before we get things started, start talking about some of the news we missed out on, let me introduce Anura, who is here hanging out with me today to talk about some Overwatch League. Anura, what's up? How's it been going this week?
You know what? It's been all right. Yeah, I mean, people can probably look at the scores and see why I'm not exactly happy, but I'm not
Bro.
really sad about it. It's like a middle ground. I'm like, at least we didn't look that bad. But overall, it's good. Contenders back. I'm putting that on the side while doing this, and just enjoying the day. It's been as you if you're watching us, you can see I'm a little sweaty right now. It's been a long day with a lot of things going on, but I'm glad to be talking about Overwatch again. What about you?
Yeah, today was my first day off in a minute. I put in a bunch of hours at this new job in the past week just because I don't know, I guess I got hired cuz they were way understaffed. So I've been so busy. I didn't get to watch as many games live as I wanted to, but with my new schedule, I was catching some of the a lot of VODs and some of the Asian games. I actually watched all of New York's games this weekend. I'm kind of pretty fond of how they've been playing. So I did get to watch some Overwatch League, but not as much as I really wanted to. But still a good week, and I kind of wish that Houston wouldn't have lost to a team like Washington the other day. But uh, you know, nothing really surprises me as a Houston fan anymore. But we can go ahead and start talking about some of the news we had around the league. One of our teams, the San Francisco Shock, picked up a new DPS player in Taiyo, who used to be on Third Impact. He's played on the Japanese World Cup team. He's known for being hit scan and a Genji player, which you know we kind of last week they kind of broke the internet super playing Genji for the Shock. That was actually kind of crazy. I guess if you can swing a Reinhardt hammer, you can swing a Genji blade. I guess that's the way they thought. But it was also against Boston. But we got to see Taiyo come in early this week up against their game against the Titans. He got to play a little bit, which we saw the Shock making the fastest game in Overwatch League history. So that was actually pretty crazy. And they straight flexed on the Titans with Taiyo in. They even set him to put super in on Genji as just a flex for that last map. I did actually get to see that whole game, so that was pretty hype. It was so fast. I got to watch it the whole thing on my lunch break. That game was wild. Did you get to see San Francisco and Taiyo's premiere in the league?
I saw it. It happened. It was a thing. Tayo looked pretty good. He looked like he can hold his own. He doesn't look as dominant as I've seen other players, but I mean, he's on a team that will, as long as you're doing your job, you'll be more than fine right now. And he really has some time to gel with this team. Tayo's a great pickup. I think he's one of the best people to come out of Third Impact. Now, comically large crosshair. We can talk about Tayo's crosshair, which is insane. It's just a giant magenta crosshair. I don't know, dude. It's a great thing to have. But Shock, honestly, they filled their hole. This was their one hole that they had during a Genji meta, and they're like, all right, we'll just pick up a player, and Tayo fits it perfectly. Like, okay, just win the league again. I guess it's fine. So I really don't know how to beat the Shock right now. I mean, you just play better, I guess, but like it's really hard when they have
Mm.
people like Choice. I mean, have you seen Smurfs Winston lately? Like insane. Flex supports on that team's insane as well. Like they're an insane team, and Tayo just really fills their one hole that they had. Literally, they you look back at Melee Shock. They literally barely lost to Paris Eternal, and it's because they didn't have a Genji player. And now that they added one, I don't know who's going to beat them in an A. And I don't even know how Shanghai might not even have a chance. It's insane. This team's
Ooh,
broken. But
that's some
yeah,
big
Tayo's
talk.
just like the cherry on top. Cherry on top. So good job, Shock. You picked up a great player. I hope you build and make him to the player I know he can be.
Yeah, it's almost like Shock has just really good coaching because they are absolutely not missing on some of these signings. Like they picked up Ons in the early season, off season, and he's been spectacular anytime anything in his hero pool has been necessary. So getting to see, the Shock, they just don't miss right now. And I don't think there's really any team that's not like a Philly or a Paris that's going to be able to compete with Shock right now. And it's kind of scary. Like they really are setting themselves up to have like a dynasty in the Overwatch League, and not like a joke on the team, the dynasty. Like they literally are years in a row. Like they've been playing really good. So you want to talk about how the Shock did what they did to the Titans while we're at it, or we can get to that later.
Let's
But
just move on. We'll
yeah,
talk about that a little bit later.
yeah,
Yeah.
for real. Oh man. But then we got another bit of news. We got Kodak from the Atlanta Reign deciding to retire as a player to become a coach, which Kodak has been off and on with he's been with the Atlanta organization for a minute now, even taking a dip into playing with the ATL Academy, and as a two-way player, he's it's been clear that he might not have been the best person to start over Dogman because he's only played, what is it, three or four games he's been in this year, but he's definitely proven with the way that Atlanta has not taken him out of the organization even without starting, that they think that he's a valuable asset to the team. And then this bringing him to be a coach, like it just really reinforces that. And I think it's kind of pretty awesome for someone who's I don't know. I always think it's cool when players are able to stay with an organization for an extended period of time. So seeing Kodak, even where he's not been fitting as a player, he's still going to be able to be part of the league and involved with the Atlantis team. He cited a loss for passion and a little bit of mental health issues affecting him over the past few months, and said that he's definitely interested in the coaching. So this is really cool. You never want to see a player retire, but it makes it a little bit easier when you know they're not actually leaving the league. And I think that it's possible for Kodak to maybe be a player next year or be a player again in the future because he's legit. Like he ain't a bad support player. So, were you surprised to see Kodak transitioning into a coach? I kind of was.
I mean, I'm surprised, but I don't know how surprised I should be. He really should have gotten more playtime, in my belief, over Dogman this season, and I guess he shouldn't have the drive to beat out Dogman this year. Just it's fine. And if you move over to coach and he really likes it, I think he could be a great coach. He's got a very good positive attitude that can help a lot of players out. Um, it's sad to see him go. He's really worked hard to get back onto the team, and he really tried hard because last year he left as well, and he went back down to contenders, and he played on Atlanta Academy, and he destroyed with them. That was Gator Hawk. We're about to talk about him, Saucy on that team. I mean, the kid legend, Sugar Free, was an insane team, and he was part of it. I was surprised not to see more of him, especially with what metas are coming out. But I'm happy he's still with the organization, and how what they can do. Also, I just a little thing. I'd probably there's like 4 days left until signing closing is done, and so if Atlanta signs another flex support, I would not be surprised. Just putting that out there, since we can't tell you like we can't report on it till next week. I'm just saying I would not be surprised to see a flex support coming into the Atlanta Reign. But I think we need to talk about another departure from the Atlanta Reign. You want to tell them about that?
Yeah, we would have talked about this last week, but we missed. But Baby Bay actually announced his retirement. He kind of hinted at it at the end of the Summer Showdown, saying that he thought it was going to be his last tournament as a pro player. And there's speculation of him moving to Valorant, but I mean, none of that's been confirmed. I know that I think it was Halo Thoughts earlier leaked that Baby Bay was going to join FaZe with Corey and Zachary, as they're both Overwatch League players. It's got I don't really know a lot of the pro Valorant players that aren't ex Overwatch League, so those names are ones that stuck out to me. And if there turns out to be a Valorant team that's more than half ex Overwatch League players, I think that's gonna have to be a team I become a fan of, because Baby Bay was just a great face of the league. And even when we thought that he was washed, he came out this year, was like, nah, look, I'm still starting. He was still popping off on Ash. So there's no doubt that he's still able to play at a high competitive level. Um, so yeah, I don't know. What do you think's in the future for Baby Bay? Because I don't know if he's a. I don't. Something tells me he might not be done with Overwatch. To be for real.
I mean, Baby Bay right now, he's probably just doing this because he's probably fell out of love with Overwatch right now. I don't blame him. He's been in the scene for so long. Maybe just the league in general. He's had an insane year, honestly. To beat out Edison and Sharp, these two rookies coming in that were supposed to be insane players, to become the hit scan player for them it's crazy. And for me, there might be some like leaks, and I don't believe them. I really don't. I think Baby Bay's taking a break right now. I think he's chilling out. I think he's gonna make some content. I think he could be a really good content creator in the future. I'm not saying he won't join FaZe, but I don't know if he's joining for Valorant in general.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. He'd be the great FaZe personality. Like the dude's fly. Like the dude has like style and talent up the wazoo. Like the dude can do anything. I mean, you got to respect him. I think he should have won Dallas Haleka a few years back, and I think season 1 he did a lot for the community. He's just a good all around guy, and I know he's a little toxic on on the rank ladder, but other than that, he's an absolute great guy, and I just hope the best for him.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I definitely could see him having a career as a popular streamer. Like, people would want to watch him. I totally could see that being a thing. So I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe he moves into just like you said, a content creator, streamer type of career. I think that actually would fit him just magnificently. So I'm just saying, I wish Baby Bay the best of luck moving forward in whatever he wants to do. And like him leaving the Reign, it's like it technically freed up some room, even though they were sitting on a pretty stacked DPS line as is. But the Reign went ahead and went out and signed Saucy, that was formerly part of their academy team. Um, so we're gonna get to see him coming up in the future for the Atlanta Reign. And personally, I think I've only seen one or two games with Saucy in it, and then the clip that they put out when they announced his joining the team is just him playing Bastion, and I think that's actually hilarious. It's because that's not, they didn't sign him to be a Bastion player. Like, they didn't. Bastion's not even really played in the Overwatch League very often. So I just thought that when they put that little video out, and it's like Bastion clips and then a Reaper clip, is just pretty hilarious. But what do you think about Saucy? You know too much about him? Because I think I've only like I know of him because I was heard Totem and Ed talking about Sugar Free nonstop, and was like, I got to check this kid out. And they were playing together. So you got any news you can break down for us about him?
I watched him mostly in Goats with the Lennon Academy
Yeah.
when he's playing with everyone else. He's a hit scan player, which is, I mean, he's just like a fill in for Baby B, I guess. He's good. He's really good. We didn't see much of him after Atlanta Reign. Atlanta Academy like disbanded, and I honestly didn't know he was 18 yet. I thought he was still 17, so I didn't know he'd be able to be signed. So I'm super excited to see them on a team that knows his skill, knows his strengths and weaknesses. Because if you didn't know, Atlanta ran Atlanta Academy. They were basically like scrim partners for all of 2019, like literally like all of the time. And Atlanta Reign was, I mean, Atlanta Academy was Overwatch League level at least. So like they were really good together. Right now, I don't know if I can see him on the hit scan role like Edison, and you have Arisher who can play Genji right now. But and Sharp's still on the team. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's maybe
Yeah.
he won't be for long, but he's still on the team. But I could see him do a mirror like what Mira did this last time and go Zarya for this team. I think he's got a really Saucy has a really solid Zarya that he can pull out for the tank line. As well as like he might just be a really good scrim partner for them, which is fine.
Yeah.
Find your strengths and work with it. But honestly, like great pickup. It's very Atlanta Rainish. Like they've really upgraded their players with not upgraded, but like brought up players from their academy team, even though it's suspended. There, it looks like they're still doing that because they had Hawk, Gator. I mean, we just talked about who was it? We talked about Kodak, who went back down and came back up. Honestly, also who was it? Um, Dogman. Dogman was from Atlanta Academy as well. Like they're literally still pulling from this great academy team they made. So I think I like the signing. I'm confused exactly where he fits, but I like the signing as a team where you're like, yeah, we're still upgrading these players. We know their talents. We're going to use them. So yeah.
For sure. And I always like to see teams that bring their players up from academy teams. That just, I don't know, it seems like a just overall good move for teams to be, building talent like that. So it's just a seems like a pretty good move. And not to mention, you were kind of talking about like where is his spot on the team going to be really, but the shock showed us last year that a like deep DPS roster can be totally beneficial for the team. And I think that the Rain has kind of been taking their notes for a minute, trying to keep a deep DPS roster. So maybe we'll get to see some Saucy coming in on just certain picks, certain maps that'll let them be more flexible. But while we're talking about some player movement, we also had Spree from the Houston Outlaws announce that he was going to be a free agent, but he also announced that he was interested in like um, a being a coach that focuses on mental aspects, almost like it kind of sounded like a sports psychologist type coach, which I think is really really cool and could totally be hugely beneficial in the Overwatch League because video games really are so much mental. So it really makes sense that it really makes sense to me to like bring in specialists that like will focus on mindset. And I'm seeing him tweeting about some stuff like that's kind of how he wanted to help is like work as a player coach, but not as much focus on gameplay but focus on the mindset. And I think that's a pretty excellent idea because Spree has been an outlaw since season one. He had some pretty spectacular Zarya performances, but if you're on the Outlaws and you're looking at the off tank role, you got Mecco. They spent big for him. He's been a solid piece of their team. Like as he integrated, it seemed like he might have had some communication issues early, but you know, they're all Mecco is not their weak point. So if I was a off tank on the Houston bench, I would definitely be looking into other things just because of who wants to really stay benched for a whole season, especially behind Mecco. Like, what's the odds of getting playtime? So I don't know. I know we really wish Spree to find a place within the league that's even if it's not a player, it'd still be pretty awesome to keep him around. Um, but I really don't think it. affects how the Outlaws would play at all this season. I don't think we were in any danger of seeing Spree come in for Mecco. Um, what do you got to say about Spree and her? What do you think?
Personally, I think Spree got a little dirty. Like get hit a little dirty. He made 3 years of this league, and honestly, he did not look bad when he came in. And it's kind of sad to see this is the way he goes out. But with that being said, I think he's going to be much happier what he's doing now than just sitting on the bench on a team that he knows he's not going to get him playing time because they spend a lot of money on a guy like Mecco. Um, right now, I mean, like it's a Zarya meta. It'd be kind of cool to see him,
Seriously.
But I mean, good for him. Like, do what you want. He just came out with his Valorant team, the healers. He hasn't picked anyone else yet out of it, but it's pretty cool. It looks like he's going to try to work to become a either a coach or really help with mental health in general. And I think it's a noble goal, and I hope he makes it. But I know he also has a long way to go. You can't just learn this stuff randomly. I mean, you gotta have the history and also like the you got to study. So he's got some work to do, but I honestly believe he can do it. If he grinds Overwatch for this long, he can do it. I mean, he'll be fine.
It takes a strong mental to grind that much Overwatch. We all know that it can get a little bit tilting playing Overwatch too long. But I definitely think that his idea is just a great idea to like start talking about within esports as like sports psychologists. Like that is just a really really good idea for esports teams to start considering.
Yeah. Honestly, like I hope for the best with Spree. I do think season 2 could have been his year, and it sucks to see that it didn't really work out for him. And I was really surprised to see him on this roster this year, but I'm glad that he is finding something he wants to do now, and he doesn't have to sit behind a bench and just like watch. As like I couldn't imagine being on the bench for 3 years. I could, like, that's so. I don't. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, sure, you're making money, but like sometimes you need something to do. You need a purpose, and I feel like he's finally found something that he can do, and I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what's next. Good luck, Spree.
Yeah, while we're talking about some league movement, we had the Shangyu Hunters adding co-coach Chen to the roster, and it seems to have been paying off because the Hunters are heating up. They've won the last 3 games in a row, which they have literally pretty much been bottom of the Asian Pacific region for a minute now. And it seems like they've just these past 3 games they've just played like legit. And I mean, it could be said that this week we have been seeing a lot of the Wrecking Ball Zarya comps, even outside the Hunters. Like the Hunters have always been the team to run Wrecking Ball, but we even got to see quite a bit of New York and the Charge playing the Ball Zarya, which I'm a fan of. If Ball's in the meta, then I want to be playing some Overwatch. But we've had the Hunters come out with a 3-0 victory over Seoul. They won a 3. Did I say that right? No, they won a 3-0 victory over the Spark, and then they won a 3-2 over Seoul. And then the week before that, they beat New York, right? Yeah. Yeah, they beat New York 3-2. So they they beat some pretty decent teams. Like New York is a pretty good team. Seoul can win or lose to anybody, and then it's the Spark that they 3-0'd is a Spark with Architect. It's not the Spark from the beginning of the year. So they put up some like pretty high caliber wins in these past 2 weeks. And you think they were going to see them continue their success and maybe make a like late season run to be like a higher regarded team, or is this just them getting lucky because a lot of teams are playing Wrecking Ball? What you think?
Oh, we'll talk about it in a second. I accidentally just deleted my Audacity. So good luck, Totem. I think we're going to have to go through the Twitch VODs now. But overall, it was bad. I was like, oh, I just did that. But for Chen, I think he's doing a great job so far, refining the identity of the Chengdu Hunters. It's been really nice to see. But I mean, this isn't next week's not the same meta. Yeah, 3 games is great. Next week's not the same meta. They're also not playing next week because their season's over. The regular season's over. It's just the countdown cup and the playoffs for them. They've done all their matches. They're not playing again. But you've got a lot of work to do to figure out what you're going to do against Orisa comps and these flank poke comps that come out with Orisa, the double shield. But I mean, if Chen can do it, good on him. I mean, so far they've looked better than they ever have. So congratulations. I know the Chinese audience were begging for Chengdu to get a new coach, and so if they have it, I hope this is what they're looking for. And now we can talk more about Hunters heating up because right now they're looking pretty solid. They're destroying teams that they wouldn't have destroyed before. Like this is insane.
Yeah, and like I'm wondering if it's just their team chemistry getting to click better because I really had some high hopes for players like Leave at the beginning of the season. I thought that the Hunters were going to be way better than last year, but they've been falling pretty flat until these past 2 weeks. And I'm just really, really curious to see where they're going to be because that definitely is going to put them in a good position with a good seed moving into the Countdown Cup, the final little tournament before the full playoffs. So, yeah, we'll have to see what the Hunters are about. And it seems like this Ball Zarya comp that they were kind of running first has gotten to be more prevalent amongst other teams. And the way that New York was playing it against the Charge, just yeah, it looked pretty strong. Like even though the Charge were doing it as well, I believe the Charge kind of did Lucio Moria heals with it, where New York went more of a Zen Mercy. And like the full comp would be Ball Zarya with Genji Ash and then Zen and Mercy, which is what New York was running. And I think that's what Hunters have been doing too. I'm trying to remember exactly. I know the Ball Zarya is like the focal point in the way that I've been watching it. And I thought that when I was seeing it, it was like, oh, this is like a good control composition. But then the Charge and Excel both decided to run it onto Kings Row, which historically Kings Row has been Ryan Zarya all the way. Like Ryan Zarya has been the prevalent Kings Row comp for what seems like ages. So to see the Reinhardt getting changed for a wrecking ball, it's just kind of crazy. But the synergy with the pile driver and the Genji dashes, it just really leads to like some fast blades. Like when there's no Orisa in the meta, and that you can't halt and then dash through the hole. The pile driver dash is a pretty sufficient replication like of a way to be able to charge that blade really fast. And I'm just curious if with Orisa back in the meta, are we still going to see as much wrecking ball? Because I really think that it's possible. Like it's definitely possible to see the Hunters come out big in this Countdown Cup, along with any other team that decides to specialize into the wrecking ball compositions. But did you get to see how New York beat up the Charge? Like that was a pretty surprising game for me because the Charge have been pretty powerful, and the New York kind of made them look silly.
Bro, I'm so mad because I predicted this on Twitter, but I couldn't do it on this podcast because we didn't do it last week. But I did see this coming. I think New York looks better on the second week of any meta than and also Charge just looked a little bit weaker. I think they're really good at this double shield Orisa comps, and now they're kind of off of it. They're not looking as strong. So I mean, props to New York. They really killed it. But I mean, overall, like it's weird because sure, ball is like really prevalent in Asia, but like I feel like Winston was more prevalent, way more prevalent in NA. So it's like, which one's gonna win out? Which two of these? Basically, the same kind of dive where you go in, you disrupt, and then you leave. Who's gonna win out? If they even play that again with the double shield coming back. Um, Overall, I love this meta. I wish it would never leave. and it's probably going to leave next week with all the heroes coming back. And it's been a good run. Good job, New York, for using it to the best ability to beat Charge. Um, yeah, they played crazy. It was good. It was really good. I think it was a really good meta for New York as well. So congrats, New York. Keep
Oh yeah,
going.
we should mention New York. We got to see Bianca come in playing the Zarya and looking hot. Hotba was on the bench, which is really weird because it seems like so far this season we've seen New York opt to run Hotba in the wrecking ball position and leave like Mono hasn't really played a lot of wrecking ball, but his ball looked clean in this game against the Charge. He straight up was outclassing Rio, who was the Charge wrecking ball player, just straight up outclassing him. Like Mono has a legit ball, so I don't know. Will New York be able to keep it up, or are they going to keep to the New York style and choke in tournaments and playoffs? But I definitely think New York's a team to watch out for when we come into the next week into the Countdown Cup, because that's a team that really does have the potential to take the grand finals. We thought that they were going to do it season one. They had a chance season two. Like, it would not be surprising to see, especially in New York that's playing that clean. Like, I would not be surprised to see them win big this year. But speaking of, oh, go ahead,
Wait,
Luca.
wait, 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 wait. Before we start, I do want to talk about Bianca, and I have a question to ask from a lot of people. Is it time to put Bianca in over Haba? Hapa has looked, honestly, to me, he's looked like one of the weakest parts of NYXL. He hasn't been playing super bad in general, but I mean, overall, I don't think he's played the best. Um, is it time to give Bianca this chance of, hey, try to steal the starting position from a veteran Hapa? He played really well in Zarya this week, like insanely well, and I'd love to see what he can do. That's what I'm really looking for next week, is to see if they're really going to try Bianca more. As I honestly, in my opinion, Haba really hasn't shown up. What do you think? Do you think they can play Bianca on this position over Haba?
I mean, if they're going to choose him to play over Hotba against the Charge, who would they not choose him to play over? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Charge is a tough team. Like, they won the Summer Showdown, so they're good. Like, this was not like a put super on Genji against Boston type choice. Like, I think they put him in that position because he is legit one of the you know I think he's legit their best option in off tank right now. So, especially with Mono's wrecking ball, it's left me curious because they spent anytime they put a player on ball so far this season, it's been Hotba. So it led me to believe that maybe Mono just hadn't played ball enough to really know, because ball's one of those characters that you gotta have a lot of map knowledge, but it's not like you gotta have a lot of map knowledge like a tracer does, where you just know and judge distances and stuff. You gotta have map knowledge and like swing angles, which is not something that you can just like know the maps really well and then be like, oh, I know the maps, I'm gonna play wrecking ball. Like, if you know all the maps super well, you've got like a little bit, of like getting the tracer down. Like, that's, I don't know. It's just like a different type of map knowledge that being a wrecking ball player like requires. So the fact that we hadn't been seeing him just kind of made me think he didn't want to do it, but he's so good at it. Like, what the heck? I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. Like, I don't know. The way that New York played against the Charge, if they play like that, they could literally beat any team. So I definitely think Bianca proved himself literally with that game. Like, yeah, you're going to have to prove yourself in terms of consistency. One game doesn't prove you're consistent. Your consistency is like on par with the rest of the team. But if that game against the Charge was any preview of what he can do, I would not be surprised to see just Bianca being their full time off tank moving forward. Maybe have Hotba come in. I don't know if Bianca has played a ton of Diva, so if maybe we see a Diva heavy meta, you might see Hotba back, because he's kind of been a Diva player as far as tank goes, he's always been pretty flexible. So I don't know. New York definitely heating up, and I think Bianca earned that spot. Do you think he's got earned it, or are you kind of? I mean, you said you feel like Hotba looked kind of weak, but do you think that this one game is enough to be like, yeah, leave Bianca in?
Well, Bianca was mostly in for the Zarya. Like,
Yeah,
let's be honest, he was mostly in for the Zarya. And of course, I do think Bianca is probably a better Zarya than Haba. It really depends on if he's just better synergizing with these tanks than everyone else. But in my personal opinion, I do think they should at least give him a shot. I think he deserves that. I think he played insane last week, and if he goes well with Mono and everyone else, like give him a shot. I know he's got a good diva. I don't know how well his what is it? Drawn blanks. Sigma is, but honestly, like give him a shot.
yeah.
If give
Like,
him a shot, like sure, I know next week they are playing the Shanghai Dragons, but I mean,
hey, the
what a,
Charge is really good too. Like, Charge won the showdown, so they beat the Dragons. So it's like kind of comparable. One of the highlights we can go back and look at for New York was on Kings Row when the Charge were attacking. It looked like the Charge had straight won the fight and we're gonna cap the point. And we got to see a stall coming out from Mono that just was longer than a ball stall should last in Overwatch League. And then you think the fight is over, and one tick left. Here comes Bianca with the grab and a couple teammates, and he just pops off, hit the perfect grab, recontested, and like it was a fight that. I mean, even the casters were like, "Oh, and here we go. Charge is gonna cap the point." And then, wait a second, what's this grab? Like, it was absolutely nuts. So, I don't know. We've talked about this game for a minute, and if you feel like you don't got enough time to watch the full series and you want to just get the flavor of what happened, just watch that Kings Row map on that game because it was a pretty impressive some of the stuff that New York was able to pull off. But we've been talking about New York for a minute, so let's go ahead and we actually have to talk about the Houston Outlaws, who I mean, honestly, the past 2 weeks as an Outlaws fan has been rough because that game against Dallas, they opened up dominant and then ended up losing in that map 5 reverse sweep with, I we could call it a C9, but it's not like it was just a blatant off the point. Like, I think it had to have been like 100th of a second that Doomfist ult was coming in. Like, Doomfist was pretty much on the point. They had hydration rolling back into point like at the end of that game, and yeah, that was as a Houston fan, that was one of those games that when they played Dallas, it ended. I just turned it off instantly. I didn't want to hear any of the post show. I did not want to hear any of it because that was probably one of my least favorite games to watch. And then this past weekend, Houston comes up and they start off kind of strong against the Washington Justice, but they got beat by the Justice. Like, what? Oh man, I don't know what's going on with Houston right now. They took a upswing with hydration main tank, and then after this most recent game against Washington, Harsh just said, "Hey, this is all my fault. I didn't prepare the team right." But still, like as a Houston fan, this has been a rough couple weeks for real. I don't know. Hopefully they get all their like bad juju out in these couple weeks and then they come up ready to play, I guess, hopefully. But they don't got easy games this week either coming up. So I don't know. My
mhm.
don't get me wrong, Houston's my favorite team through and through and I'm always going to root for them. But geez, it's looking dark. They lost their past two games, and then this weekend they play two games, one versus the Valiant and one versus the Shock. So, oh, what do we even say about the Outlaws anymore?
I could start with a few. Hydration main tank did not look solid at all. On the one hero that I thought they'd put me Muma in, which is Winston. Honestly, I think he got outplayed by Roar, which is surprising. There's some weird comp changes where I was like, I thought they're gonna play like Blase Dante all day or something like that, and they went with a lot of Linkser and they put in the Ash, and I just like I don't know how strong that was gonna be. Very very questionable for me. It's one of those things where when I was seeing it happening, like where Houston lost against Washington, it made complete sense. I feel like Washington really understood the meta. They've been doing that. I think Supreme's done a great job with this team. When they understand a meta, they've looked really solid. Although they might not win against the best teams, like they're gonna win against teams that don't understand the meta. You can tell this was a difficult meta for Houston Outlaws, like easily, like super bad meta for them. They did not know what to do. I looked at the roster and I was like, what are they gonna do against this team? And what are they going to do with their team? Not against Washington, but just with Houston Outlaws in general. And honestly, like they just looked lost. I don't know how else to say it. Like they just did not look there. Good news is Arissa's back. Hydration go back in Arissa, and you can just like act like nothing happened. You did say they have some rough games going ahead, but also I haven't been able to gloat about the I picked Dallas uh, in the
I
game of the
know.
Mat 5. I did pick Dallas, and you're like, "What are you doing? You're on some crazy sauce." I was like, "Nah, dude, it makes sense."
Oh yeah,
Um,
and once Houston opened up 2-0, how strong they looked at the beginning, I was even more like, "You crazy!" And yeah, it didn't work out. That was
yeah.
that was rough.
Things happen. I think there's C9s on both sides, but that was just a bad game. I'm not gonna lie, that was bad. But overall, like Houston, this is they're the team that for me, they're the team that I'm like, if Houston wins, I'm like, okay, that's cool. If Houston loses, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like there's not I don't put them on this scale of like they're that good or that bad. I'm like, they're Houston. They're gonna play. And some weeks they're gonna look better. They're very meta dependent is the best way to put it. It's like if I don't know the meta, I'm like I don't know. I feel like this team can be stronger on most metas, and I'm probably gonna pick that team. So yeah, I mean Houston. There's some questionable decision making.
Yeah.
Not a really good meta for them going into Washington, who actually figured out the meta pretty well. So just congrats to Washington. I think we need to give them more like credit for where it's due. They're looking better than I thought they would this year. And so, like, congrats to you. And I mean, Houston, don't put your head down. At least you know you're making playoffs this year because everyone's making playoffs. Congratulations.
I mean, that's the one way to look at it positively, but it's never you can never feel good when a team with only 3 wins gets their fourth win against your team this late in the season. Like it, it's rough, but there is a little bit of hope because would you say earlier that there's 3 or 4 days left in the signing window for the year? And guess who doesn't have a team right now that would probably be a great addition to the Outlaws? Is a bumper. Where's he at? Ain't been on a team yet.
They're
Like,
gonna pick up Bumper.
oh my
They'll
god,
put a
I would be so
hydration into the rest of the
stoked.
season.
I mean, you're
They ain't
right.
gonna do
You're
that.
right. You're right. But I'm just saying, you got a couple days, maybe a 2-week mercenary contract. See what happens. But
A man could dream, but
that's all I'm doing. As a
uh,
Houston fan, all you have to hold on to is dreams right now. And I don't mean dream their manager. I mean like, oh yeah,
whoa, assistant coach dream. Their
assistant coach.
manager, their GM right now is Cool Matt 69. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah,
Your GM right now is Cool Matt 69. But yeah, I mean like Houston right now, I don't know what's in their budget. I think they should roll the rest of the season with what they got. They've looked strong
probably.
in
You're
certain
right.
metas. And just roll with the dice and go with what you have. You can win against some teams that were unexpected. Like it's not a bad team. You guys are just very meta dependent. Keep grinding and honestly, like hope at the end of the year you find a good meta for you because
Oh yeah.
anything could happen.
As a Houston fan, the motto is always just wait till next year. Just wait till next year. I've been saying it for a couple years now as a Houston fan, but Um,
Houston, Dallas, Seoul. Yeah, we can name a few more, but I agree.
yeah, well, I'm done with talking about Houston. I don't need to get heated. Let's talk about your team, the Gladiators, who actually look pretty legit, taking Philly to map five. Um, you know, you always want to see your team win, but when you come up against a team like Philly and you take them to map five and play them close like that, I mean, you can't be that disappointed. Like, I don't know. Like, break it down for me because I did not get to see this Philly Glads game. Like, that was just one that I haven't got to catch up on. I only got to see the highlights. So, go ahead. I know you watched all of it intensely. Break it down for us.
First two maps are just pure gold. I don't know what else to say. Actually, it was pretty close control. But Kevster was doing really well in Genji versus a Boombox and Alarm. Boombox Alarm, they're playing Brig BAP when most teams are playing like the Zen Brig or Zen anything else. But not really a lot of BAP this time. Um, Mira came out on Zarya and really popped off and really showed what he can do with Kevster just destroying in the backline on Genji for the first two maps. Honestly, like our two rookie DPS were looking solid. We had Birdring also popping off, even though Hex didn't say that. It's fine. But Hex was really talking about how good Carpe was and how
Oh,
Birdring wasn't performing. But it's fine. He has his opinions. I have my opinions. It's not that big of a deal. But Hex, no. So basically, like the first two maps, Gliders looked really solid. It looks like it was gonna be easy 3-0. And then they Philly Fusion went with this Sombra Tracer comp with Zen and instead of Baptiste. It looked so much better, and also it made it to where Kevster was kind of shut down on most of Volskaya. With that being said, I still think Gladiators had a chance to win this 3-0, and they kind of just screwed it. And then they went to Route 66, and then Gladiators C9'd, and I went to map 5. And you don't want to face Philly Fusion on map 5. You don't. That's just something you don't want to do ever. Overall, I think is a really big improvement from for Gladiators to look this dominant, this good. I wouldn't say dominant because they lost, but this good against a top team like Philly, easily top 3 in NA. Um, and I mean, you should be proud of what you did. Like OG looked great on Winston. I mean, Birdring looked insane. Kevster looked really good. Shaz was popping off on Zen. Big Goose was doing really well on Brig and sometimes Lucio. Like, that was a good job by Gladiators. But honestly, like, they couldn't close it out. And I think that's been a problem with the Gladiators for a while now, where they just can't close out games like this. And it's sad to see, but I'm happy to see us do that well. And then we went off to play Paris Eternal, and oh my god, we got rocked by this team. Paris Eternal is easily top 2, maybe number 1. I'd love to see a Shock versus Paris game in this line, like in this meta that's now gone. But I mean, Hanbin's insane on Zarya. I was so impressed. Everyone was looking really good. Fielder was insane. Sparkles looked really good. Map 3 came out for against the Gladiators, and it was already 0-2 for the Gladiators. And they put in Nico and Soon, and Nico and Soon still popped off. What is it? Nosemite looked really good on Winston. He looked really solid on Winston. So, like, congratulations. You've got you got a potential winner here. But it sucks to see Gladiators play so well on this comp that they looked pretty good on, and literally play probably the two of the 3 teams I think could beat them. Maybe Mayhem adds in that, but Shock, Paris, and Fusion were the only teams that probably could beat them in this count. Um, Overall, like, I'm glad to see improvements and see like them play well, but right now you have to look at it and it's like, well, that was like probably our best meta in a while, and now we have to go back to Arista comps. They still have a lot to figure out, and long way to go. So overall,
yeah.
I'm not mad. It's just sad. Yeah.
Yeah, Paris has been lit these past couple weeks, and they're looking to be honest, they're looking incredibly terrifying. And like we've been taught, everybody's been raving over Sparkle, but Hanbin has been literally so good. Dude could has a case. Like if Paris do really well in these last two tournaments, there is a case for Hanbin MVP because yeah, Sparkle had some really flashy plays and he really helped the team put him over the edge, but Hanbin has been there popping off since the beginning. And even Sparkle goes to the bench sometimes, but Hanbin doesn't. So I don't know. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. If they continue up like this, Hanbin can be MVP. Like no arguments in my book. Like his is really, really solid. Like his Sigma's so good. His Zarya's so good. Like his D early in the season was really good. Like dude is just crazy. And you know, seeing Soon be coming in off the bench, it seems like whenever he comes off the bench, he just puts up a good performance. Like not all players can just come right off the bench and look that tight. Like a lot of players, it takes like a little bit of warming up. But Paris, man, they are. I don't know if your favorite team's got to play Paris. I would not get your hopes up too much. Like that's just a tough team no matter
Yeah,
what.
they're top three
Yep,
in
agreed.
Overwatch League for sure. I do want to stop this real quick. We got news of something new. Violet just received a fine from San Francisco Shock for I can't say the word. For being toxic to certain streamers. He'll receive a fine. We don't know the amount, and also he will not be playing in next week's match for the Shock. So
That's weird.
yeah, I saw this a long time coming.
Wasn't that incident like 3+ weeks ago? Like
So there was the incident with PvP, a Junkrat streamer who I personally was like, whatever. But he later did it with Hoshiwara, I think that's her name or their name. But it's a Mercy streamer, and Violet really doesn't take non-break players or just bad players at all. And he used some choice words both times that he probably shouldn't have. And honestly, I think he does need to learn to not be so toxic against these players. Yeah. Because it's the problem. The main problem is probably the words, and there's some throwing with PvP. But I mean, he's young. I'm not gonna put too much on him.
Yeah, I mean,
This is it's surprising, but it's understandable. That's all I'm really gonna put on it. It's a one game
we
with
were
a fine.
talking about like when is Moth gonna get playtime with Violet and Twilight? Looks like Moth got playtime coming. Like, jeez, dude. Violet got to get it together because he's been playing pretty good, but just playing good ain't enough. You just gotta. It's not that hard to not be a dick. Like it's really not that hard. But I don't know. We don't got to talk about that too much. We were just about to talk about the Shock having the fastest series ever versus the Titans, which we mentioned earlier.
Speaking of the Shock,
speaking
of the Shock.
So I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know. What do we even say about this? Yeah, the Shock stomped the Titans, and it looked like the Titans were so boomed that they almost gave up. There was literally a time when Dalton jumped into a 1v6, not even trying to regroup. Like, the Shock dunked on them, and it was the fastest series ever. It was like 19 minutes for 3 games. Like, how do you... I don't know, man. You can literally have Overwatch games that are 20 minutes plus for one match or like one map, and they did 3 that fast. And it's a little bit of luck of the draw. When you get to defend first, it makes it more possible to get shorter times, but still, like, the Shock kind of made them look silly. And the Titans have been on the up and up. Like, first they had like the Titans started out at the top and then they dropped off. They got their new roster. They've been building back up and looking stronger and stronger, and this just made them look like a joke. Yeah, they were even talking. It's like if you're the Titans, like if you're on that team, do you even watch this replay or do you try to pretend it didn't happen? I would try to pretend it didn't happen because it was embarrassing. Like, I don't know. Do you think that this was Titans getting boomed or the Shock just being really good?
Oh, this was definitely Shock being really good. I think they would have thrown most teams in this league, and the severity just goes on how well they played dive. I mean, the Smurf striker duo on this Tracer Winston, I feel like they get 2v6. I'm not gonna lie, they're insane.
They gotta get heals.
They're sure. There's health packs. They got it. I mean, like, dude, it's insane how well they do on this stuff. If there's a dive meta, I don't see Shock losing. It's insane. But I mean, I wouldn't hold it too much against the Titans. It's just that right now, Shock's on this stomping spree. They're just stomping teams, and right now, I mean, it's been this whole season. It's like who can catch up to Shock, and right now, it does not look like anyone.
Maybe Paris.
I mean, you can put Shanghai on that list as well.
Yeah, agree.
Paris is probably the one team that I could see, but even so, like, I don't know. This is an insane record. They blew it out the water. Of course, this record's a lot easier to hit with now. There's only 3 maps instead of 4 maps in each series. But with that being said, like, I wouldn't hold it. Titans shouldn't feel bad. They actually should feel more comfortable going to the next meta now that Arista's back, and they can just go back to playing their double shield that they're really good at. People have said they've been improving. You can see it. We didn't get to talk about it. I would talk about it last week. Although they've looked like they're improving, they're really not that good at these anything other than the Arista comp yet because they really haven't had time on it as a team. Give them more time. Either way, this team's built for next year. Titans are not built to win this year. They're built to improve this year and to win next year. So
okay, and let's also mention that this was the fastest record that they beat by over 3 minutes. It wasn't like they just barely edged out the record. They stomped the record. Just 3 minutes is a lot of time in Overwatch. And the record wasn't from one of the 4 map series. The record, I believe, was from just like the week before, whatever team stomped on.
It was Valiant versus Boston.
Stomping on Boston. So
and they blew it out the water. I'm just saying in general. That's why like the top 7,
they're all this year
it's because there's 3 maps instead of 4.
Yeah. Well,
but like, good job, Shock. Don't feel too bad, Vancouver. That's really where we can end it. Yeah, what's up?
No, I was gonna say Shock's just that good, and I don't know. We can go ahead and just talk about the unfortunate team that has to play Shock next week. The Houston Outlaws. But no, we'll go ahead. Let's get into a preview of next week. We're gonna have some Friday games kicking off Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have Dallas versus Philly, followed by LA Valiant versus the Houston Outlaws on Friday. I'm really liking these Friday games because it just spreads it out more, and like, I don't know, before being off every weekend meant like tons of time to watch Overwatch League, and now it's fitting it in where it can. And actually, I've been doing a lot of VODs, so but I'm actually going to be off this Friday, and I'm stoked to watch the Houston Outlaws play. But other than that, you think Dallas got a chance against Philly? Because I don't.
Yeah, this is I hate to say it. I think this is a 3-0.
A 3-0
Friday. Yeah, any 3-0 Fridays.
No,
Houston. You're like, I don't see it. Honestly, I do think the next map we're gonna talk in the game could be closer. But in general, Dallas is gonna have to really play up to fade against Fusion. I think Fusion's been looking pretty strong. I still like Fusion's got some things to work with their own on their own. After you can look at the difference between how Fusion played Gladiators versus how Paris played Gladiators and what Fusion really needs to work on. They have some weaknesses that other teams don't, but in general, I think Philly has this. Yeah, Fusion has this. If Fusion loses this, then they're boomed. I don't know what happened, but yeah.
And then following that, we got the Houston Valiant game, which has potential to be quite a bit closer, but I don't know. Houston's kind of killed a lot of my confidence in them over the past weeks. I'm still going to root for them no matter what. It's favorite team, duh. But my confidence is not that high. Um, yeah.
I mean, the more that I think about it, it could be 50. I think Valiant's on the downtrend.
Agreed.
It really depends on what meta comes out. But if it's a good meta for Valiant, then I think it's a 3-0.
And then,
I think their DPS are better. I think their support line's better. I think their tank line's about on par. It's just, yeah. What were you gonna say?
I don't know. Let's just move along. Let's just move along. I don't want to talk about the Outlaws right now. Coming up Saturday morning, for we will kick off with the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Guangzhou Charge, followed by the London Spitfire taking on the Hangzhou Spark, and then wrapping up those Saturday morning games is the New York Excelsior versus the Shanghai Dragons, which personally I'm kind of looking at New York XL versus Shanghai Dragons as match of the week with how strong New York looked last week against the Charge and then seeing them come up against the Dragons. This has potential for fireworks. What do you think about this?
Oh, I mean, it could be a good game. Really looking at it, the London Spark game. This game is the two people where I think London's pretty solid against some top teams. Spark has really been on and off. They've had some really good games, or some really bad games lately, and I'm excited to see who comes out on top on this one. I think New York Excelsior for Shanghai Dragons, unless it's a good comp, like good meta for New York, which I don't think it's going to be. I think Shanghai has it. We can talk about the Seoul Charge game, which it could go Seoul's favor. It really could. But I think Charge has really grown past the 50-50. We're going to lose to some teams, wins to some teams. I think they're past that to where it's only like teams are obviously better on that comp are going to beat us. And I don't think Seoul's there. So, I mean, for me, I this week, the Asian games this week, I have Charge. I'm going to go with London and Shanghai. I mean, those are my three picks.
Oh, really? I would pick New York. Just I don't know. I've been growing kind of fond of this New York team,
Yeah, that's not a bad pick.
and
I'm gonna be honest, it's not the worst pick, but yeah.
I like to root for the underdog, and anybody playing the Dragons right now comes up an underdog. I'm really hyped for that match. I'm gonna be able to those 8 o'clock or matches, which is 8 Eastern. Those are just like good time to eat breakfast and watch some
Oh yeah,
Overwatch League.
I wake up and I'm so excited. I'm like, oh yeah, the
Yeah.
games are still on.
I'll wake up and I'll still be kind of tired, and I'm like, oh, let's turn the TV on. These games are going. It's pretty nice. But here, let's try something new going on for these next three games. I'm gonna read off the game, and you give me one word of how you're gonna describe this game. And we'll start Paris versus Washington. One word. How do you describe it?
Shit.
Stomp. Yeah. Followed by Toronto versus Vancouver.
Canada.
And then Houston versus Shock.
Shit.
Well, I can't really argue with you there. Do you think any of these games are going to be nail biters? I guess the Toronto Vancouver game has, the best chance to be evenly matched. But
I'm not saying nail biter, but you get to see Tuba versus Sparkle. You can't go wrong with that. You really can't. Even though I think Paris is gonna stomp.
oh yeah, Paris is gonna dunk on them.
And I mean, we get to see Super Genji again versus the Shock versus Outlaws, so that's always fun.
Come on now. You really think the Outlaws?
It's always great. It's a good time.
You really think Outlaws are like Boston? Oh man, you might be right.
I'm not saying they're like Boston. I just think Shock's that good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like this Saturday is kind of like a oof.
Yeah.
It's an oof Saturday. Or like the three games are like Toronto Defiant versus Vancouver. You're like, if you care about Canada, maybe you'll like that game. But
yeah,
I'm excited to see who wins because it helps with the Countdown Cup. but I don't know. Like it's one of those things where it's whatever.
Yeah, I definitely see this Paris, Washington, and Houston shot games being fast. So we'll just talk about them fast and go ahead and go on to Sunday. Sunday, we're going to kick off at 3 p.m. Eastern with Dallas versus Atlanta. Might be able to see Atlanta's new DPS player, Saucy, get some time. Then we get to see the Gladiators versus the Mayhem, which I think could be a pretty legit match. Like both those teams have been like up and down this year. That could be a and it's a lot of pride coming in on that because I think they both kind of really need the win right now. And then we cap the weekend off, the final game being the Philly Fusion versus the Los Angeles Valiant. Which of these Sunday games do you want to profile, Glads?
I mean, like the Gladiators game's so weird right now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about all three of them. I think Dallas banger of a match. I'm sorry, I know we're trying to like speed up, but
No, you good.
Dallas with Lenarain, banger of a match. I think that's going to be like really two teams that are trying to break out of this mold that they're in, where Dallas feels like, oh, if their DPS can pop off, they can probably win. Versus Lenarain's like they're always just average. Like they'll destroy the teams that they're destroying. They're gonna lose to the teams that they're gonna lose to. I'm looking for a nail biter on that one. Moving on, I don't know who's gonna win that one. Honestly. I'm gonna put Atlanta down, but that's really iffy. And if I hear anything more about the meta going on through later this week, I might change my answer. It's a very questionable game for me. It moves on to the Gladiators versus Florida Mayhem. If the Gladiators don't, if the meta is an Orisa, if the meta is Orisa, I'm putting Florida Mayhem down. Gladiators just have not looked solid on that, and I'd love to try Cloudy on Orisa because I mean I don't think OG's heart is in Orisa. I don't think OG's space is that coordinated in general, but I feel like it could be pretty even if it was like a dive comp, but right now with the Orisa comps and how Florida has looked kind of better, I'm putting Florida down. Sadly, it's my team. I hate to do it,
Really?
but yeah, I think Florida's just looked solid overall. And Gladiators have had really a big trouble with Orisa comps, like honestly, like huge trouble. And if Gladiators can't run you over, they won't win, and you really can't run over people with Orisa comps. And Philly Fusion versus LA Valiant. I have Fusion winning, but Valiant can always come back with some crazy comp where their DPS just pop off. And you can't count out the Valiant this year. You really can't. So I do have Fusion winning that, but it's really.
See, now
I wouldn't be surprised if you're saving a day to watch Overwatch League. I think it's Sunday.
See, now if I'm making my Sunday picks, I'm gonna pick Atlanta by a hair. I think Gladiators can edge this out over Mayhem, and then you can't bet against Philly right now unless they're playing the Shock or Paris. Just don't bet against Philly. They're literally beating all the teams they should beat, and they're just looking tough. So I don't know. I think you're right. Sunday definitely seems like the most competitive day of Overwatch because of those first two games, but you can't count out Philly. You really just can't, especially this season. It seems like this is a Philly's best season so far, so I wouldn't want to count them out against the Valiant. But I mean, and that kind of pretty much wraps up what we're talking about for next week. So you got any more final thoughts on the coming week of Overwatch League?
I just hope there's not Orisa comps. I know we talked about it a lot. I hope Orisa's out of the meta. I really was hoping they'd nerf the crap out of her. They didn't, and yeah, I just wish it was the old meta. I found it so much fun, dude. It was Ball Zarya or Winston Zarya. How could you not love that comp?
I mean, you know how I feel about Wrecking Ball. Like, I think most people that listen to this show know that I love Wrecking Ball. I love watching Wrecking Ball play. I love playing it. So, yeah, I was pretty ecstatic seeing some of that. But, I like Orisa too.
Yeah,
I don't dislike Orisa comps. I know you don't like it. I know. But
she needs to end. It's been almost a year, dude. She needs to go away. Get out of here.
Yeah,
Leave.
mini grav is pretty strong. Like mini
Get
grav
rid of
is
her
good.
haul.
Not, I don't think get rid of it. You don't really gotta get rid of it.
No, I don't. I don't care about her anymore. Get rid of it. Like, get her out. I don't care. Like, get her. Leave. Get out of here. Go.
Gallop into the
Find
sunset.
something else to do.
Okay, but
Become a Travis stop. I don't care. Like, do something else.
oh, okay. Here we go. We're gonna go ahead and wrap the show up on that note. If you want to leave a review, be sure to head on over to your favorite podcatcher and leave us a review. We're always looking for new ways to improve the show. And if you leave a review, we will read it on air. Nura, you want to tell everybody about Overwatch Recall?
Yeah, you can find additional Overwatch content on our weekly website via recall. Every Sunday, we release the weekly recall that lists the episodes released within the last week. For more info, follow over. And if you'd like to show some additional support to our network of Overwatch shows, consider pledging via Patreon. Tiers start at just $1 a month. More information can be found at www.patreon.com/OWL network. You too can join the likes of our Master and Above Patreons, Daniel Owl, Kasha, Agent Life, and 044, in helping our network grow. And Booker, how can they contact the show?
I just remembered something while you were reading that about our patrons. So a little bit off topic, but still Overwatch League related. Over this past week, there was one day me and Owl, one of our patrons, we were playing some Overwatch with some of our friends, and guess who we queued up against and played Overwatch with and whooped? We played with
Who?
So and Mr. X. And like,
Oh, that's hype.
yeah, like I saw the names when the game started and I was just like, oh, I bet these people are just big fans. And then about like halfway through, I was like, in between rounds, we played on Volskaya. I was like, I'm gonna look and see if any of them are streaming and see if it is. And it really was. I was just like, whoa, like yeah, Mr. X said any crunchers in the game, and I was like, so yeah, we played with them on Volskaya and actually won, so that was pretty fun. But anyways, I was off topic. But if you want to contact the show, you can send an email to contact@owlnshow.com. You can visit our website at owlnshow.com. We have a Twitter, which is at owlnshow. You can find all past episodes of this podcast at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We are on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. And all of our episodes come on live on Twitch, and we are part of a larger network at twitch.tv/OWLN show. And we're a Twitch affiliate, and you can help support by subscribing to the channel and earn the network emoticon. The network streams regularly. You can check out the other shows, which is this show, Overwatch League Network, which airs Mondays. You got Overwatch League by the Numbers, a fantasy Overwatch League show, which airs on Tuesdays. Heroes Never Die Variety Overwatch, which airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And if you want to contact the host, Anura, how can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, I've changed my at. So you can find me in Neura Sports. That's EASPORTS. I got bored one day. I can't explain it other than that. It's in the game. How can they find you?
And I am still at Booger Brains with two Z's, BOOGERBRAINZZ. And before we close out the show, I want to give a special shout out to Kunai Overwatch for giving us a follow at the beginning of the episode, and to all of our other listeners, whether you listen on Twitch or later. We appreciate you to listen, or your listens, and hope you all have a great week and you stack as much SR as you can. Have a good one.